historical parallels between Churchill and Hitler. Historical parallels between Churchill and Hitler. Keith Bailey.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I've been a connoisseur of World War II history for as long as I can remember. Listening to the stories my father would tell me when he was in the British Army shortly after World War II, when they still occupied Germany, to the endless days sitting on the couch watching the History Channel with my father and watching those World War II videos. They'd have like 12-week stretches, and every week we would sit for a couple hours and watch more. This fascination continued on into my adult life as well. And I still love the History Channel. Last year, I took upon myself some light reading. A tome called The Last Lion, which is the biography of Winston Churchill from birth up until the start of World War II. I followed that shortly thereafter with the biography of Adolf Hitler, his entire life story. And during the reading of these two, I was amazed with the parallels that these gentlemen have between them. And I'm here to share that with you today and to enlighten you. During my presentation, you're going to ask yourself, how is it possible, with all these parallels, that one man can triumph over another? Let's begin. Both Winston Churchill and Hitler fought in World War I. Both gentlemen narrowly escaped death on several occasions. One such was when Winston Churchill, who loved to be at the very front, oftentimes standing up on the trenches to look into no man's land, was called to the rear to meet with one of his generals. Upon his return back to his post at the front, as he's approaching, he's a few minutes away, a massive barrage of bombs came in. He took cover. After the dust settled, he got back to his post, and every single person that he'd been with shortly before was dead. Adolf Hitler was a messenger in World War I. After delivering a message to one of his headquarters, he was giving another message to return. Although being weary, he followed the orders and left. Shortly after departing, that command post came under barrage, and every single person there was killed. Both gentlemen were amazing orators. Winston Churchill, an eloquent speaker, would practice tirelessly on his presentations. All night long, you could hear him pacing up and down upstairs as he prepared for his presentation the following day. And people would come to watch, like going to a Sunday matinee, because Winston Churchill would entertain for 2 to 3 hours at a go. Adolf Hitler, phenomenal speaker. He would actually whip his people, his audience, into a frenzy. Sold out halls. Those who couldn't get in would capture some of the people coming out like, how was it? What was it about? I heard all the yelling and the screaming. And the person's like, I don't know what all he said, but he is amazing. We need to follow this man. He has a vision that we need to follow. We know the German people did. Both men were artists. This is a painting by Adolf Hitler. He actually initially went to school to be an architect, didn't cut the mustard. So he decided to go into painting, also couldn't get into university. And as a starving artist living hand to mouth on the streets of Vienna, he would do paintings of architectural buildings and iconic sites and sell them so he could live. Winston Churchill, also a phenomenal painter. His reason for painting was to relieve the stress that he'd felt leading a political life. He also painted to offset depression, which is something he suffered with his entire life. Both men were authors, writers. Winston Churchill wrote 37 books in 57 volumes. Everything from his political experience to fighting in the Boer War and being captured to painting as a pastime. Adolf Hitler also wrote 9 books, all of them politically charged. The bestseller, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. By 1939, 5.1 million copies were sold in 11 languages, and it ended up being a very popular book here in the United States. He used the money that he made from the selling of his book to fuel his political campaign. Think about it. We paid for his political campaign unknowingly. Both men were inventors. Adolf Hitler was one of the drivers behind the invention of the Volkswagen, or the people's car, one that everybody could own. Winston Churchill invented the tank, which became a pivotal piece in the winning of World War I, especially towards the end when the Allies came in, and they saw there was a need for this, because trench warfare was at a stalemate. And the tank could drive across the trenches, through the barbed wire, the troops could be behind it, and they could overrun the enemy. Adolf Hitler invented highways for the practical purpose of the ability to move his troops and his mechanized army very quickly throughout the entire country. If you've ever been to Europe, you'll know that if you get into the little cities, all the winding roads make it very difficult to travel fast. Winston Churchill came up with a mobile port. This is so he could go to places that didn't have a port, put up a temporary bridge, offload his men as his troops, and also be able to get out quickly as well. A lot of parallels. I'm sure you're asking yourself, how can one man triumph over the other when there's so much of the same person? And the answer is quite simple. Even though Hitler did a lot of bad things out there in the world, and Winston Churchill came along to stop him. He was actually called out of retirement. He wasn't in the public life anymore. And he was asked to come back again to help stave off Adolf Hitler. Interesting little fact about this is when Winston Churchill stepped out of his political life, he left with a word of foreboding. Look to Europe and to this man known as Adolf Hitler, for he is a tyrant and he must be stopped. Adolf Hitler also had his eye on Winston Churchill and said to his staff, do not anger England, for we cannot defeat them. Do your blitzkrieg in Europe, but do not anger England. As we all know, he pushed the envelope a little bit too far and the world wars began. But what is it between these parallels, these men knowing each other so well, that got one to triumph over the other? The answer is actually quite simple. Scissors always beats paper.